the user experience doesn't have to degrade in this world. I mean, at some point, if you have like 100% agent traffic, then like why bother having like a nice, beautiful, interactive sites? But I feel like it's not fully going to go away, or at least not in the next, 5-10 years, I would say.
Before, we would look for our highest performing content based on number of page views, right? Oh, this page got 10,000 views this month. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter when it comes to AI. Like, we actually need maybe 10,000 pages now to answer 10,000 individual questions. Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here as usual, and I'm recording this intro after the episode we just recorded. And I was on with Kevin White, who is head of marketing at Scrunch. And if you listen to our last episode, where I was soloing it for an episode and kind of giving you an overview of where we're at with AEO measurement, like measuring the effectiveness of AI search and what we're doing on AI search. And I actually gave a few snippets of Scrunch, the platform, and we're a Scrunch partner. So we're utilizing the platform, rolling it out across customers to actually see growth in AI visibility. And it was so good to have Kevin on, who is marketing Scrunch, which I think is like a really exciting position to be in right now. Like, AEO is one of the hottest spaces for marketing. And like the interest in that category alone is only growing. So not only did we cover like Scrunch as a platform and how we should be thinking about measurement and some of the cool features actually that I don't tend to touch on much from an AEO standpoint. So like Scrunch, for example, has an agent experience platform that lets you clone your site to create a version for AI bots, like things like that, like really juicy insights of like, wow, here's what we can do with AI measurement tools like Scrunch. It's kind of like a part 2 follow on from our last episode. But Kevin's got a ton of experience in marketing, and particularly in the startup space as well. He's had a ton of marketing advisor roles. He's led GTM teams, etc. So actually hearing some of his kind of highlights of that career journey and really what's got him to Scrunch was actually a really interesting take too. So yeah, a lot to unpack in this episode. Not just another kind of AEO episode. There was a lot more to it. So hopefully you enjoy the insights in this episode. I think it was packed. Let's get into it. Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Think about listening to this podcast right now. You're probably multitasking and catching 70, maybe 80% of it. Now flip that and imagine only catching 20%. That'd be pretty crazy, right? Yet most businesses only use 20% of their data. All the important details in call logs, emails, and chats just left floating in digital space. HubSpot gives you access to those insights to help your business grow, because when you know more, you grow more. Visit HubSpot.com to get the full picture today. The first thing that I wanted to get into, as I kind of mentioned before, Kevin, was like your background is really interesting. And I do like to do a bit of research into the guests that we have
Oh,
on
sure.
the podcast, believe it or
Yeah.
not. To the listeners, that might be a surprise. But I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and I was like, wow, this guy has like been around the block a lot, like director of web marketing, director of demand generation, head of growth, marketing advisor ×3, head of GTM strategy. Like, you've had a lot of roles in marketing, and I'm curious just to know like what the highlights are on that journey and what led you to Scrunch.
Yeah. I feel like that's I've been around the block is a nice way of saying I'm old in marketing. I'm like hard to keep up with these days with everything going on. But no, it's been great. I mean, I have had the fortune of like liking what I do for a living and like figuring out the way to. I think I've got my 10,000 hours in, and I feel really good about all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know, like looking back, okay, so a few fun things that are like to share that are highlights. So is actually first got started into marketing. I was working, this is way back when I was a teenager in high school working at a surf shop, and I started to learn HTML and I built a website out, and it was like, oh, I got to figure out how to drive e-commerce sales to the sites. And then like that's what kind of got me into marketing. But that job, I actually had an office I mean, I don't know if anyone's familiar that's listening to this. With Orange County and Huntington Beach, but I lived, or sorry, my office was on the corner of PCH, Pacific Coast Highway, and Main Street. I had an office on the top level, 4 levels, and overlooked the ocean. So I could look outside the window and be like, "Oh, the surf's looking good today. Like, let me go test the product out in the water and like
Wow.
and
Yeah.
take a surf break." Which was very it was a nice benefit. I mean, I don't think the pay was super high like tech is, but it was definitely like a nice like a really great benefit. And I also kind of like had the fortune of like understanding and learning how marketing works. And that was back in the days of like MySpace and like Google paid ads were like just coming along. Like, so it was very early, like to date myself. Uh, I think the other things, on in my experience have been, um, one, just like learning how to do B2B SaaS. I joined this company called Gigya when I first like made the move into Silicon Valley, Bay Area, and they're like, we bought this thing called Marketo, like figure out how it works. This was like back in 2010, and so like that kind of got me into like marketing operations and how things function and how businesses function and all that kind of stuff. And then I would say moving on to like segments, where I led growth and then learning out the self-serve motion and then bringing that to retool. And then now like bringing things like that to Scrunch. I feel like the growth, like growth experiments, kind of like the difference between what I really like about growth and marketing is that you're kind of like marrying the creative with the analytical, and
Mm.
I love doing both of those things. And so I feel like my time at Segment and Retool and like what we're doing now at Scrunch and when I was doing a Common Room is like, a combination of all those things. So I don't know, lots to talk about because I had a long career already. So
Yeah, and then you obviously end up at Scrunch now, right? Which I'm kind of in the area of being a Scrunch fanboy. Like, I'd be there with the foam finger type thing because like the tool is just so brilliant. But I'd love to hear like what enticed you about the role. Because if I'm right in thinking you were the first marketing hire at Scrunch.
yeah, I mean, we're early. I mean, I think the product has been generally available only for like this year, April this year, and so we're cranking along for sure. But it's pretty early, and I was the first marketing hire, probably like 25 or 30 people at the company. So, what the question is like, what enticed me to join?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say a few things, and I think from our conversations before, you're kind of like getting the same kind of itch too. Is um, I noticed when I was at Common Room that we asked self-reported attribution question, which is how did you hear about us? And we saw a lot of people saying we heard about Common Room through ChatGPT, through Perplexity. We also started seeing referral traffic from those sources, and this was without doing like a whole lot. And so on the optimization front. And so I kind of got into, okay, what's driving this? Like, how can we show up in these platforms? Like our users and our customers are like migrating to use this versus using like traditional search. And so I kind of got into like, okay, what can we do to like build for this new channel? Drove traffic up to the right and without having like too much insights into it. And so I just kind of got interested in the space. And then um, actually going back to my experience, one of the people who I worked with when I first joined a SaaS company, his name is Patrick. He's now an investor at Mayfield, who's an investor in Scrunch. And so he kind of uh, uh, introduced me to Chris and the team, and I saw the product, saw the vision. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then I would say the thing that convinced me to join, and I feel like this is maybe a potential rule of thumb for other people if they're looking to make a move or a career shift, is um, I was skeptical. I didn't want to move. I talked to Chris. He showed me the product. And then I was like, okay, let me sleep on it. And then over the weekend, I was like, okay, I can't stop thinking about ways that like I can use this product plus market this product. And I was like, okay, that's a good sign if I'm like losing sleep over it. And so that's kind of what made me make the leap.
Yeah, love that. I think we've all been in those situations where, like, when it's right because, like you say, you're already thinking 6 months ahead into, like, actually, how do I implement, what I know and what I do best? I think what looks, maybe obvious to me is like your experience with startups. Have you always worked with startups, or is that like something you've just kind of found along the way?
Pretty much. I mean, I think the biggest company I worked at was Segment. When I left, there was probably like 600 people and 100 million plus in ARR. Um, which you do at that point kind of get to um a little bit more bureaucracy, large company type vibes, and that's like actually pretty small, like in the grand scheme of things. It's definitely
Yeah.
not like enterprise company. So I think, yeah, I think I gravitate more towards startups and like the 0 to 1 figuring things out kind of phase, building a team. I like the I think I like both the like fast pace of it, and like you're constantly learning, which is great for growth and experimentation as you get like fast feedback, and then also the autonomy of just like, okay, you're making impact, you control your own destiny, you're owning things and shipping things, and I'd rather have it that way than things get hung up in some approval process. So
Yeah, I think like as a marketer, when you are, I mean, I have this, and it sounds like you do too. Like I like to be involved in the process of things. I like scrappiness. Like I kind of thrive on scrappiness. I don't really like perfection. Like people do say there's a phrase, isn't there? Like perfection is the enemy of done, which I swear by. And when when I have to have something go through 5 layers of approval, and like one idea that we have then takes 6 weeks to ship out, and like the small competitor who's like really coming up our ass is like right behind us and able to ship things within days. I just think how did we end up like this?
yeah, I mean, I can see both sides of the picture there, like where and I'm much more on the scrappy side like you, where I'm like, okay, let's get something out there, let's get data, let's get some get some reporting back to us and some feedback. Also, like, I feel like in this day and age, the when you're scrappy like that, you can post things that are raw on social channels. You can it's kind of like cool and authentic, and
Yeah,
so
and
luckily
perform
that's
better.
worked out.
Yeah,
But on the other side of the table, there's like the Stripes of the world that are like, they're not going to ship a product or anything unless it's like pixel perfect and like the copy's been reviewed and like really well thought. And I feel like there's a measure twice, cut once type of mentality there, and like you can't argue much with the results that they're getting. So I can definitely see it both ways.
yeah. Startups like now, I do think though are almost at an advantage with the AI tools we have available to us. Like you can be one marketer, and you've got the traditional T-shaped marketer, right, which gives you like a couple of disciplines which you're typically better in, but you almost have the ability now to be like 80% good in all areas of marketing, and it's like the exceptional few where you might go to 100% like and be the best in that field.
Yeah, the way I think about it actually is a little bit different. Where I think if you have the core understanding, like the first principles understanding of, and you're an expert in that domain, you can do things a lot faster in a way that actually is impactful, or is essentially like giving you more superpowers, more leverage. And then for the things that you're not good at, it maybe gets you to like some level of competence. But I feel like if I were to see the work of someone else like that is outputting something with AI in my level of expertise, I'm like, that's not good enough. That doesn't
Yeah.
hit the bar. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know exactly where I'm going with that, other than like I feel like they're, to me, the superpower is like having that domain level expertise, and then like having someone, an AI in this case, an agent, like work on your behalf to give you more leverage.
Yeah, it's one thing you said in there though, which is interesting, is like if something is good enough. And I suppose you have
Mm,
to understand where at your business's maturity level, like what is good enough? At what
yeah.
point do you need to get that domain expertise in to actually take you to the next level?
Yeah, there's certainly like table stakes things where I'm like, okay, this can definitely be outsourced to AI, where it's like, write a bio on our on me, our CEO,
Yeah.
or take a blog post that you wrote as a human, and then like have it come up with a Twitter post or something like that. Like I feel like that stuff is um type of thing where it's like, okay, you're doing these table stake things and you're just doing like them really fast, and like there's a good argument to be made that those table stake things like you need to do, otherwise it doesn't seem like you're showing up. So
Yeah, awesome. We should talk about Scrunch for sure. So in our previous episode, actually, which I did on my own, I teased this as kind of a part two segment to it because I spoke about like AEO measurement and the difference in measurement between SEO and AEO and how we actually go about measurement. And I teased some areas of Scrunch, but it would be really interesting to hear from you, the person who markets the product, like actually what Scrunch is and what it does for marketers.
Oh, sure. So, I always struggle with these kinds of questions actually, to like distill down what your product or platform does. I should actually like practice it, but um, I think Scrunch is we believe that the world is moving to this new channel of AI platforms for both answers generation, like a lot of work. We're building a platform to help brands reach their buyers on that channel. And then that comes with lots of different things and lots of different like features. It starts with just just the monitoring and understanding like where your brand is being represented as a baseline. That's like the tracking and monitoring side of things. Then there's the like, okay, we have this insight, or we have this data. Like now, what can we do with it? Then we can, surface things like technical areas where the AI can't crawl your site, or content low hanging fruit that you can update or publish to show up better in those results. And then the last pillar is more like the actioning side of things, which is okay. We we give you these insights. How do you publish pages for AI to see on your site? How do you optimize the different pages? How do you connect to your CRM and make optimizations there? All this kind of stuff. So I feel like that's where the platform is right now. It's kind of like the end-to-end platform, from like everything from benchmarking to taking action so that your brand is reaching customers the right way on these AI platforms. But things are moving fast. I feel like it's gonna, if you ask me in 6 months, maybe that definition will change a little bit. But that's a maybe more of a long-winded way of explaining what Scrunch does.
Yeah, I feel like the roots of the platform is basically enabling your brand to gain visibility in large language models when they answer questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely the starting points, which everyone's wanting to know right now.
Yeah.
I feel like the boards are asking their startups for that information. CEOs are asking their marketers for it. They know that the market's migrating, and they're just like, as a baseline, as a starting point, like, what are we doing about this channel? How are we showing up in this channel? Like, we want to be ahead of the curve here and not get caught off guard. So it's
Yeah.
definitely the starting point is on the monitoring and like performance tracking side of things.
I think the importance of being able to measure our efforts when it comes to AEO actually can't be understated though. Like I can talk from our own experience at Blend, right? Before we had Scrunch, of course we were, creating content for a long, long time. We have brilliant domain authority when it comes to SEO. We've got a solid content engine, but we weren't able to actually understand if the content we were creating, which we thought would have an impact in AI answers, was actually doing that. And like we weren't able to actually create a systematic approach to doing it because we didn't have a systematic way to measure it, right? Like, so it's so essential to have a platform. Like most businesses of a like certain growth will have an Hrefs, they'll have a SEMrush, like they'll have a partner at least who's measuring that for them. I think like it's absolutely essential now to have the same for AEO or AI SEO, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, I don't think there's consensus yet. We just call it like AI search. It's all going to be search in the long run, and then we'll curb it with like AKA AEO/GEO, whatever acronym you want to use, right? Um, yeah, but I think it is. I mean, to me, that's one of the biggest changes in how the biggest changes in how marketers or people are taking action, or like it's changing like their workflows, is the metric side of things. Because like there's a lots of debate out there around like, okay, AEO is just another version of SEO. If you're doing SEO the right way, then you're gonna like do AEO the right way, or AI search the right way. And there is a lot of validity to that. And like, if you do things that are, what's in the best interest of your user, eventually like the platforms will figure that out and you'll be rewarded for it. And you'll be penalized if you're trying to do things that are, taking advantage of whatever arbitrage there is right now. But I will say that it's pretty clear that the metrics of um, how you report on performance, how you understand this new channel is actually like very different than SEO. Where SEO was like, okay, are we showing up in the search results as kind of like a secondary metric, where the core metric is more, are we getting organic referral traffic? But in the AI platform world, the referral traffic is actually an AI retrieval bot that's coming to your site.
Mm,
Like the person behind the prompt um, is where you want to understand what like metrics are happening there. And so instead of organic search traffic or AI search traffic from like a referral, we're now looking at, you know, brand presence in prompts. Like if someone prompts something, does my brand show up? We're looking at citations. If someone writes in a prompt, does my domain have authority to influence that answer? Is AI looking to my site as a credible source to pull information from? And then you start getting into like, okay, once you are showing up here, at some point, when does the user come to your site and transact? But
yeah.
in the future, that might just, the whole transaction might just happen on an AI platform. I'm pretty sure it will for many different businesses. So it could be the whole thing could be just like, how are you're tracking your website is existing to serve AI bots, and your metrics are all based on what is happening in this one platform that is not your website.
Yeah, I think there's a place where, particularly for B2C, that reality could be truer a lot quicker because of
Yeah,
like the interface, the kind of like low level impulse purchase that you can get off of that. Like, with typical B2B buying cycles and journeys, they're a lot more complex. They require a lot more consideration. They're not impulse, right? So I think that might be a way off compared to B2C, but it always lags, right? There's always
yeah.
a lagging factor between the two.
I tried the ChatGPT Atlas browser,
Yeah.
and I've been using it a little bit, and I was trying to see how far along I could get it to transact on my behalf. I tried to get it to I feel like a very simple use case would be, book a reservation for me.
Mm.
I don't need a credit card for the most part. It seems like just filling out a form, and it got the right restaurant or right set of restaurants in consideration, like using credible sources. It got like halfway through the reservation booking thing, and then it got to a point where it was like, okay, I need your feedback so that I can like actually make this reservation now. And so it's not quite there. This is probably dating this episode, where in the future it's just like, oh yeah, this is just like the way of doing things. But we're getting there, and I think we'll get there pretty fast, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is incredible. And there's one thing in Scrunch that I haven't seen many people talk about yet, and it's AXP, which
Uh,
like you very briefly touched on it earlier, but I feel like there's consensus among marketers now, like enough understanding around, okay, we need to measure prompts, and I think we should touch a bit on prompts after this. But yeah, can you describe potentially
yeah,
AXP, what it is, why we should think about it?
Yeah, so maybe some of the reason I haven't talked about it or seen it so much is because we are still in kind of like the design beta phase, but we are getting like very far along, and we'll be launching it more generally available soon. But so the premise behind it is, your these AI bots are becoming your new VIP visitors. They're crawling your site, but they especially like retrieval bots. That's essentially someone like typing in a prompt. The AI bot is like going and fetching and returning that data on behalf of the user by going and crawling the web, and it's crawling your site. And so that that bot or that AI agent, when it crawls your site, it's looking at this site that is optimized for a human. It's got like loads of JavaScript, which it can't read well. It's got images, it's got video, and then it's got HTML and structure and some Markdown. But the language of the AI bots is Markdown and JSON, at least right now. And so what we are doing is we are uh, intercepting that traffic at the CDN level with like Cloudflare, or Vercel, or Akamai, and then we are then serving up a different page to the AI traffic when we have identified AI traffic. That page is pulling from what your existing content is. Like say your pricing page or something like that is pulling from that pricing page, but then also maybe pulling in like FAQs and other stuff and structuring that page so that it is crawlable, indexable. It's in Markdown. It is much easier for the AI bot to read and get accurate. It doesn't have all this weird JavaScript and tables. And so essentially, we are creating a separate parallel version of your site that's meant for this new VIP visitor, which is AI agents.
Yeah, I think that's so important, right? Because, like you say, JavaScript, for example, is essential to power some functionality on websites for users. But from an AI perspective, like you can't see that. And you don't necessarily want to hinder your user experience, hinder your website's functionality, but you do want to make sure it's as readable as possible for AI engines. And yeah, I think this is obviously going to depend on the like CMS that you're on, your ability to edit server-side code, I believe. Like, I'm not the tech
Well,
guy.
we're trying to abstract that away from you having to manage it or do it on your own, right? It's like we'll
Yeah,
handle the technical details, and then you, as a marketer or someone who's owning the website, can just plug in information and content, and then like we'll handle the rest for you. And so there is like an integration of how do you plug in Scrunch to your CDN, but it's really just like plug and play, enter credentials, and like you're good to go.
yeah,
Um, I feel like you said something earlier, which is an important point, which is the user experience doesn't have to degrade in this world. I mean, at some point, if you have like 100% agent traffic, then like why bother having like a nice,
well,
beautiful,
yeah,
interactive sites? But I feel like it's not fully going to go away, or at least not in the next 5-10 years, I would say. And so with a product like Agent Experience Platform (AXP), you can kind of have your cake and eat it too, where your human visitors get like this great immersive experience, and then your AI visitors, get this optimized, fast like content the way they want it type of experience.
yeah. Markdown is so amazingly useful in AI. I don't know how much you use like custom GPTs and Claude projects and things, but when I use them and I use Markdown in instructions, for example, I get way, way, way better outputs from that. Like it's incredible how much AI favors like that language over just, plain text input.
Interesting. I haven't like noticed that, but I mean, I just use Markdown all the time, whether I'm inputting something into a Notion doc, or typing something into an AI prompt, or typing something into our CDN. No, C. What is the content? What's like sanity or contentful? I'm losing the
CMS?
acronym right now. CMS. Yes, yes, CMS. I was like, why would you put
Head of
Markdown into a
marketing at Scrunch
CRM?
here, guys.
Too many acronyms are going on in my mind. Anyway, thanks for that.
We'll
Thanks for the
forgive
help
you.
there. But yeah, I use Markdown all the time, and it's like I just feel like it's a much faster way of doing things and formatting things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And going back to the SEO versus AEO debate, I think whilst there are some principles that are the same across both, the content that you create, this is what I'm seeing from our own experiments anyway, like you there is a like structure and a format that just works for AEO right now. And how long that lasts, I think, like how long the ability. This will be an interesting one to get your take on, actually. Right now, there is some ability to manipulate AI answers with particular types of content, which I'm hoping to dive into in a few weeks. By the way, on a like closed off webinar, um, really literally showing exactly how we do it, the secret sauce.
Oh,
I just wonder how long it is before large language models like ChatGPT have to go down the trust signal route, like Google did at some point, where it's got like, it's not a published domain authority, but they have a trust based like ranking system behind the doors.
yeah. It's hard to know. Like I don't even know what actually works. I mean, they don't have any. There's nothing like verifiable, like documented white paper from OpenAI or Claude or anything that's like this is a if you structure things in this way,
Yeah.
this is what works. So you're kind of like inferring and testing. And I feel like the thing that I'm saying right now is uh don't take anyone's word for it, because like there is often a lot of correlation with a rising tide lifting all boats, with like I did this thing and you're just getting more traffic anyways. And so what and you'll correlate this thing that we did with like a rise in performance, but that performance would have maybe happened anyway. And so what I say is, or what I recommend is, get out there and do it yourself, and then maybe have
Mm.
like a control group and a variable group, and that way you kind of by going out there and doing the different experiments yourself of like, oh, we're gonna you know structure this data in a different way. We're gonna add FAQs. We're gonna include a high authority author here. Those are some of the tactics that people say work. The LLMs haven't like specifically validated that, but if you can control that and put it in an experiment format and like see that that actually makes a difference and lift using something like Scrunch to measure that
Yeah.
lift, then you kind of like get that extra leg up. And then going back to your question of, are the foundational models going to catch on to these, exploitations or arbitrages that are happening right now? I mean, I'm sure they will. I don't know if there's going to be like a penguin like update that'll like,
Yeah.
if you have a loaded FAQ page or something like that, it's going to like completely like discredit your like search authority. But I think again, I would just go back to like, is this actually serving my users or my visitors in the way that it should? You can still create different schema and different markup and different things and still have that goal or that objective be the case, And so like I always kind of like steer back towards that as my North Star is like, yeah, I can format this in a different way, but is it going to be helpful for the people who are visiting my sites, or is it helpful for AI to like grab that and like return it to the user? And if that's the case, then like it's probably like something that's safe to do going forward.
Yeah, you said some good things in there. One around like experiments, right? And we it's almost like gospel now when we think about SEO and how to rank in SEO. Like, oh, it's just the proven things that work. But they weren't always the proven things that work. Like they've just been so ingrained in like what we do as marketing now. Like, of course we're going to have a meta title or meta description, and like of course we're going to have our keyword in our H1. Of course, like we're going to do these things. It's just so ingrained in us. But actually, like those methods had to be proved. They had to be experimented on, like in the early days of search. And like you say, like post updates, like Penguin, for example, and like Google Rank Brain, like what happened after those? We had to experiment to get to what works. And right now we're kind of in that phase with AEO.
Yeah,
Like, I've just proved out like our proof of concept for this page structure, these types of content that have consistently enabled us to get 10 days worth of visibility back to back for the prompts that we want to be seen for. It's like, okay, well, if we can do that, like we're proving out the concept basically, like Rand Fishkin did in the early days of SEO.
yeah. It's just we're in a very early innings. SEO we kind of take for granted because it's at a 20-year head start on like what works, and people have proven things out and probably established actual causation. And like we'll get there with AI
Yeah.
search. And we're getting there. We're getting there quickly right now. But I think it'll be two things. It'll be both people running these experiments and like having them like actually be verifiable that they work, and then it'll also be some of the uh I hope like some of the foundational models kind of like share like what is actually
Yeah.
going into their algorithm, kind of like Google has kind of
Yeah.
opened up on that with Matt Cutts and other people kind of like sharing how SEO works.
Yeah, yeah, fingers crossed. You also mentioned the technical part, which is interesting, like, and actually a key part of AEO. And Scrunch has a tool for this, right? I can't remember what it's called now. I really should know. Insights or site audits, one of those.
Sorry, what is this? Site audits will tell you like the technical side of things of,
Yes,
can AI crawl this? Is it optimized the right way for speed? Is there, things preventing the bot from getting the information that it wants?
yeah. I suppose what I'm alluding to here is things like schema, where schema's always been a thing, right? And it's always been important and of some use to any kind of robot crawler that is exploring your site, whether that be Google or Bing or whatever it might be. It's just
Mhm.
more important for like AIs, I think. And I don't know if you've got any more insight on that, but like there's two components of your own influence on AEO, one being the content that you create and the other one being like this technical element.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Those are the two different ways that you can improve your performance and improve results. On the schema side of things, I'm like, to me, I don't know if it works or not, but I feel like it's not that hard to do and it can't hurt.
Yeah,
And
it's
like Google, like it does. We do know that it works in Google search results where schema market really helps. If you have a definition or a author or video, all that kind of stuff. Like actually, Google says like that helps us, and so I would imagine that um, the foundational models also like take advantage of some of that schema too.
Here's a quick story from us at Blend and our customer, Daytel. Daytel were launching a completely new product in a brand new market with a different type of buyer. To do this effectively, they knew they needed to rebrand, overhaul their website, and rethink their go to market strategy. We partnered with them to achieve this, transforming their brand, rebuilding the site with their new identity, and working with them long term to shift from lead generation to demand generation. The impact? 35% more revenue, 63% more profit, and 800% ROI from marketing. And to top it off, a HubSpot Impact Award to recognize the success that we had together. This is what happens when you have a partner who has strategic, creative, and technical expertise all working together. If you're in a similar place and want to discuss how we can help your business grow, just head over to blendb2b.com. I want to tell you about a podcast that's essential if you're trying to apply AI in your business, and let's face it, who isn't right now? The Next Wave, hosted by Matt Wolf and Nathan Lands from the HubSpot Podcast Network. As leading AI creators, they break down the latest tools and technologies into what you can actually use to grow your business. As AI reshapes business operations, Matt and Nathan help you investigate what's worth implementing. If you're deciding where to invest in AI for your marketing or business, they cut straight to what delivers results. The Next Wave, available wherever you get your podcasts. One thing that I've just skipped over, like I've got Scrunch up in front of me now. One thing that I actually skipped over, which I haven't even covered on the podcast yet, is actually how these tools like Scrunch get the information. So how
Oh yeah, sure.
the prompt is obviously entered into Scrunch. Then then what?
Yeah, yeah. So you're asking like, how do we get the data that we put into the prompt results
Yeah, because
across the different prompts?
Scrunch has such a lovely, colorful interface, right? It aggregates the data so visually, but something happens after I press new prompt and I type in my prompt, you know, what's behind the scenes?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do this, and we try and triangulate quite a lot of different ways to get the most reliable answer or prompt results, so that you can measure that by. There's things like an API where you could just push this prompt to the OpenAI API or the Claude API, and those results actually get you much different results than you would if it was a human prompting something in an LLM platform. So there's like definitely stuff you have to watch out for to get the fidelity of that prompt data to a more accurate representation of like what a person would actually prompt into. So we do that in a number of ways. We started out by actually just like doing it our own with separate VPNs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But now we are working with different like partners and making sure that we're capturing prompts in a way that is actual humans doing different things on LLMs in different locations and stuff like that. And so I feel like there's actually multiple interfaces where people can prompt. There's like the browser bar. There's different other AI products. There's the actual foundational models themselves. We try and like aggregate as much of that data as possible to give like the most accurate representation of what a prompt result looks like. So that way, you have some trust in like the data that you're seeing. But I would say it's a combination of things, and the reason it's a combination of things is because the way that people use prompts and LLMs are in a lot of different places, regions, factors, like all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I was like kind of a long-winded answer, but there's kind of a data and scale element to it, along with like a qualitative side of things, because you have the human element in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I showed a bit of Scrunch last time, so hopefully in the last episode. So hopefully the audience has a bit of understanding of like what it visually shows, because I think that's important too. Like, there are a lot of AEO tools on the market at the moment, and they all say similar things. I think it's important to note like what each of them excels in, like whether it's like how they aggregate data, how they visualize it, how they enable you to get better results in AI search. Basically, like that is what you should be aiming for.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I can walk through a little bit of it if it's helpful, but if not, if we did it last time, that's also fine too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got it covered. I think we've got it
Cool,
covered.
cool, 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 cool.
Is there, before I move on from Scrunch, like, and we actually talk about something else, is there anything else to cover on the tool? Like, this is your moment, Kevin, to speak to the marketers listening to Demand Decoded, to sell them Scrunch.
um, I think we covered a good amount of ground. I would say there's a new element that we've added, which is estimation of prompt volumes and topics, which is actually pretty helpful. It's akin to keyword SEO keyword like volume estimations, like you
Yes.
would get in
Yeah, some
Ahrefs
data, isn't it?
or SEMrush. And so we have you know purchased a big panel data set and are interpreting that panel data set in the most hopefully rigorous way possible to give you give our customers a pretty good proxy for, okay, this topic is getting um this much prompts volume and how it's trending, and then also approximation of like how your brand is showing in within that topic. And then if you drill down, you can also see like, okay, what are the prompt examples that are behind this topic. There's hundreds of thousands potentially per topic, and so we don't like surface all of those things, but we will give you a kind of like a preview of like what a sampling of those prompts are that are powering that like topic and how that topic's trending. And then this is actually really critical for understanding like, okay, where can I invest to grow my AI search strategy in a way that'll have and I always think of it as a mix of intent plus volume. And so it's like finding finding the topics that have high volume, but then also marrying that with like, is this the right level of intent or the right kind of context that is relevant to our product, our brand, whatever. And so you can prioritize like the different vectors that you go after to show up in AI results with this new, we call it AI search trends is the product we have. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely love that. One of the things that we've mentioned on here before is how most most AI prompts, most prompts put into AI by a user have a search volume of one, because it's so unique to that one person. The context, I think, I had the stat last time. It's like the average ChatGPT prompt length is like 24 words or something like that. So in
Yeah,
order to,
something like
if
that.
the likelihood, the probability of replicating that across like your buyers is really, really low, right? It's going to be one in most cases. So the only way that you can really track measurement and track directional movement is to do it at the topic, at the category level. So like, yeah, I think you guys are aligning really well to that, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it is kind of I wrote a post about this, like a LinkedIn post about this, which I call like the long tail, where in SEO was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going after the fat head, and that's like the really high level keyword with lots of volume, and then that got exhausted, and then now we're going after the long tail, and then now with AI with 24 word prompts, like that is like the long tail.
Yeah.
The interesting thing there though is that it's almost like a build it and they will come kind of, or write it or create it and they will come kind of scenario where um, the LLMs are really good at finding people who have a really specific query and then matching your content with that query, so you can have this really long tail type of content that, yeah, it doesn't get a ton of visibility because it's a n of one per prompt or n of like a dozen
Yeah.
or so, but the intent level of the person behind that prompt and the AI's ability to go find that content from a sea of like however many like trillions of pieces of content are out there and pull it back to the user is it's really good at doing those things. And so you can have this super long tail content that only you're the only one creating that users will find and actually convert from. So I see that as,
Yes.
part of like a strategy of the future. And it's also nice because it's like this blue ocean kind of strategy now, or it's like no one's doing this kind of stuff. And so you can kind of like, uh, carve out your own path for content and showing up in AI results because there's like untapped territory and a new channel that's finding new things.
Yeah. Oh, that was absolute gold dust. Like, so, so true. It's unreal. Like, before we would look for our highest performing content based on number of page views, right? Oh, this page got 10,000 views this month. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter when it comes to AI. Like, we actually need maybe 10,000 pages now to answer 10,000 individual questions because of the way that large language models like retrieve information and do fan out queries and then like bring back the most relevant passages based on that. Like the game has changed, right? And that means the measurement needs to change as well. It's just, oh, what a time to be a marketer, right?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun times.
It's so
Always something
fun.
new.
Well, so I wanted to spend the last part of this podcast, Kevin, actually like hearing from you what you're doing at Scrunch right now. Like I think an AEO tool, any AI tool, um, in the grand scheme of things, is an incredibly exciting thing to market right now. It's a high growth category of product. AEO tools, in particular, I think, are extremely high growth products right now. I'm really interested to know, like, what your plans are for next year. Some of the things like you're planning to do to scale marketing at Crunch and really get the most from it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting times because I am also learning and new to this stuff. I mean, I don't think anyone is an expert in this space,
Yeah,
and so my plan is to kind of learn by doing, and then share those learnings to help with education of our customers, the market, all this kind of stuff. Because we're at the forefront of all these things, and I'd be very skeptical of anyone saying that they're an expert in this stuff right now. And so I know we were talking a little bit before the call here that about dog fooding and using the product. And so I'm actually going through. It's funny. This happened to me at Segments and Retail and other companies where you would think that you have like the most pristine best practice like structure of your own product, and because of multiple people using the product and using it for demo purposes and all this kind of stuff, like our own instance was not in the best shape. And so right now I'm kind of like, okay, I'm 2 or 3 months in the job. I need to like come in and really pave the path and set the right example for our customers. And so I'm like cleaning up things, and I'm like setting forward the structure and like really starting to actually like come in and own this whole process on the marketing side ourselves. And so it'll be fun because I can kind of like share my journey and share how I'm using Scrunch at Scrunch. And so I feel like that content's always compelling. And
yeah,
so yeah, that's kind of like where I'm going with the actual product and execution of it right now from a dog fooding standpoint. And then, I mean, our roadmap is actually is got me like so fired up, and when we show it to people, it gets them fired up too. And so like I'm just looking forward to getting all that stuff shipped and out there because I feel like it's really gonna take it from a you know starting point of like here's how to do this to like a full suite platform where you can do this like end to end AI search and AI and reaching customers on this like new platform in a way that is going to be really really impactful. So I'm really excited about the direction of our product roadmap on that front.
yeah. Outside of your own AEO efforts, I'd be interested to know some of your big bets for next year. Like, funnily enough, I'm maybe anticipating you're going to say events because actually the way that I found out about Scrunch was Preston, one of Scrunch's salespeople, were just kind of walking around inbound, giving out these blue scrunchies. And, we had some people on the stand who would like a blue scrunchie. And, we have them. I had probably like a good half an hour chat with Preston because we were actually evaluating AI SEO tools at the time. And Scrunch wasn't one of them, funnily enough. And yeah, I was chatting to Preston and he was like, right, let's get a demo going, and tested the tool, loved it, was actually better than any of the others we were testing at the time. And that's how we found that. But yeah, like interested to know where you're going. I know partners are quite important to Scrunch and things.
Yeah, I mean we really bill ourselves as like the agency friendly platform. We know a lot of brands out there work with agencies to execute a AI search strategy, and so we've we've both like made it easy for agencies where you can like prospect and like build your own brand to without even having like an actual client. You can kind of like surface like, oh, this is a client that might be like, let's show them what their brand looks like inside of Scrunch, and made things like very friendly on that front. I think the other side of it that I'm seeing is like, oh, there's like a really big channel here of different agency partners who can go and share what they're doing with Scrunch and educate the market as well. And that helps me get leverage for getting the word out there so that when we talk to someone at an event, they like know about us
Yeah.
versus like us having to tell them about it. And I think that's a product of not having marketing as well for until I joined like 2 months ago. So we're still early there. And then I would say, yeah, events are in-person stuff is certainly something that works well for us. I feel like we're going to invest in that, and people want that kind of like human connection. There's also our self-serve motion, which
Mm.
we just opened up recently, and we're getting like tons and tons of traction and inbound there, and it's under optimized, so to speak. So I think we're going to be investing a lot in that, in like getting users like time to value within the product and growing through that like, kind of self-service motion, in addition to like the event enterprise side of things. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to do, I'm not going to invest in too many different channels because I don't want to dilute the efficacy of them. And so we'll probably pick like the ones that we mentioned and like maybe one or two more. And with dog fooding being part of it as well, as we hire people on the content side of things as well. And so yeah, I don't know. It should be a fun year. We'll see where things end up.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think the dog food in part is actually one really important thing, right? Because you need to be able to showcase that. I always
Well,
think like SEMrush and Ahrefs, for example, are like the two core SEO tools to me,
yeah,
and they have amazing SEO, right? They
yeah.
they prove that they can do it by using their own platform.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that I don't want to dog food for the sake of dog fooding. I mean, it's helpful to
Reference dog
communicate.
food. I love it.
I do believe that like this channel is an effective way to reaching the right audience for us, and so I mean, I wouldn't have
Yeah,
joined Scrunch if that wasn't the case, and so like I certainly want to invest in that as a growth channel, and I think that's kind of like a channel that's on top of channel being LLM models and AI platforms, being on top of every growth person's mind right now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just obvious that everyone is going there for answers for different use cases in Google. I think like they're still going to Google, but they're also going into this new channel that's doing like lots of other things that are differentiated,
yeah.
like generating doing hardcore research, like generating images, like all this kind of stuff that's different than Google in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Like, the one thing I always say is ultimately as marketers, like we have to go where our audience is. If our audience isn't, at events, well, don't do events. If our audience isn't on LinkedIn, well, you don't have to invest in LinkedIn, just because X, Y, and Z are saying LinkedIn returned, amazing um revenue. Like if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. One thing I would say though on the AEO front is everyone uses Google, right? Like it's just fundamental fact, right? The population of the globe uses Google. The Google will be rolling out AI mode as default browsing experience at some point, right? There's already so many prompts as you experience through the platform that will guide you to AI mode. Like they're preparing us for it, and when that changes, like the brands that are already ahead of the curve when it comes to AEO and have that head start, like you say, exploit that blue ocean right now. Like, man, they're gonna be reeling it in.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I think the incumbents are kind of like panicking a little bit, and then the newer companies are like, "Oh, this is a new area to tap into that like we have it's even level playing field
Yeah,
right now." So, yeah.
yeah, awesome. All right. Well, before we wrap up, any kind of, like last words on where people should go to learn about Scrunch, try these things out, or anything like that?
Yeah, you can sign up for Scrunch, try it out, spin up a workspace for free for 7 days at scrunch.com. And then yeah, I guess follow me on LinkedIn. I talk about this stuff quite a lot. I share videos, I share research, I share all this kind of stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, brilliant to have you on. It's really nice to like continue the conversation on AEO at the moment. It is like the hottest topic on this podcast. When I look at our download stats, for example, like whenever we post an episode about AEO, it has, by far like the biggest 7-day traction. And yeah, it's good to actually, like, I love Scrunch. I don't know how many times I've said that on this podcast, but like love it. So it's good to have somebody from Scrunch on here to rep the tool and
Nice.
actually, hear what you're doing from a marketing perspective too.
Well, I certainly appreciate it, and it's been a blast. So thanks for having me on.
All right, so wrapping up that episode with Kevin, there was a lot in there from his experience in marketing in general, advising companies, his kind of build up to Scrunch and where he's at now, what he's thinking about in terms of marketing next year, some juicy insights on the Scrunch tool itself, some things that we don't necessarily see often in terms of like cloning our sites for AI, and yeah, just some good takes on there in terms of like where things are heading from a like search standpoint. And it's nice to carry on the trend of talking about AEO on this podcast. I do think we'll probably spend some time in the next couple of episodes that we've got in the schedule not talking about AEO. It's been one of the hottest topics for sure, like right now, but we do have a lot of content out there. I am planning to run a webinar in a couple of weeks, which will be non-recorded, because we're basically going to share the secret sauce of our own proof of concept when it comes to AEO, literally like step by step what we've done and what results we've had. As I kind of mentioned and teased in that episode with Kevin, like we have actually now proved out a concept with us that I would like to share with everyone, but because there's so much secret sauce in it, I actually don't want it to be completely public right now. So yeah, holding it back a little bit. But if you do want to see updates on that, if the link is out to register for it, we'll drop it in the description below. If you don't see it, head over to LinkedIn, to Blend, or to my LinkedIn, and actually see if there is somewhere to register for it there. It will be a really detailed overview of exactly how we have created a systematic approach to rank in things like ChatGPT, and I think it will be really useful for everyone to see. So yeah, hopefully you can make it to that, and it should be really useful for everyone. And I'm really looking forward to just getting feedback from it as well, actually. So yeah, lots there. Really excited at the moment. Just yeah, marketing is just in such interesting place, and 2026 is going to be totally awesome. And yeah, I'm rambling now, so goodbye. This episode of Demand Decoded was brought to you by Blend. We help B2B technology companies grow through strategic, creative, and technical expertise, bringing you the capabilities you need to drive demand and turn it into real revenue impact for your business. If you enjoyed this episode, follow Demand Decoded on your favorite podcast platform, leave us a quick review, and we'll see you next time with more insight to help you grow.